Good. What did we think of this morning? Wasn't that awesome? Eric and Odette, all those product announcements. Yeah, let's hear it for them. It was like absolutely fantastic. Great to be here again at Zoomtopia 2019. Going to do a fireside chat with Remi Gas, the Chief Technology Officer for Sanofi. Sanofi is a French healthcare company, 100,000 employees in 100 countries around the world, at about 35 billion euros, approximately 40 billion US dollars revenue for 2018. So I don't want to butcher Remi's introduction, so without further ado, please welcome Remi Gas, CTO for Sanofi. It's been ages since we talked, Remi, all of about a minute and a half. Great. So, Remi, just as we said in the back, so why don't you share with the audience, like, you know, what's a fun fact about you or a hobby of yours?
I don't think there will be any surprise. I'm French, so you can hear it, I assume. And let's say one of my hobby is about wines. Not only French, because I love some other wines coming from typically Latin America or South Africa, and also US for sure.
Napa Valley, you're right here, man.
Yeah, for sure. And what about yours?
Yeah, mine's a very special hobby, which I'm working on not as well as I would like, which is to kiteboard. Any kiteboarders out here? Yeah, I got one back there. Maybe we should talk later. I'm really bad at it, and I'm confronting a fear of mine, which is the fear of water. So you're probably all saying, well, this CIO at Zoom is really a crazy guy. He's fearful of water, but he wants to learn how to kiteboard. I mean, that's really crazy. So anyway, great. So Sanofi, big organization, 100,000 people, 100 countries. And you know, sort of one of the core philosophies we have at Zoom is, you know, what's the problem? What's the root cause? What's the solution? So for our audience here, can you share what life was like? We know what your solution was, it was Zoom. Yeah, thank you for that. But what was it like before Zoom? What was the catalyst? And what were the problems and the root causes?
Okay, in few words, I joined the company 18 months ago, and at that time, the video experience was really bad in the company. I should first share some few insights about Sanofi. In fact, Sanofi is made of various acquisitions and merge in the last decades. And in fact, the technical landscape is very heterogeneous. And it's probably from where is coming the various pain points that we have. Even if there was a very high demand in terms of collaboration and video experience. So typically, just for you to understand, we are having 100,000 associates. They were all having some collaboration tools installed on their laptops. They were using regularly some video meeting rooms, all equipped with, I will not tell the various brands, but I think we were having all the brands that were existing at that time. And the biggest pain was even becoming a joke, because at that time, when people were starting a video meeting, they were telling that before to be able to start, there was a 15 minutes tax, video tax, just because you need 15 minutes to be able to launch the video session with the proper quality. So whether you are in a video meeting room, whether you are with another device. So it was a big pain point. And in fact, at that time, the video usage was very low. So it was very underutilized, not very friendly, user-friendly, very complex, and it was not a one-click experience as we could expect. So it's a reason why. Perhaps another experience that I can share is that for executives that were using regularly meeting rooms, they were in fact, in order to be able to launch a video session, they had to ask to require the support of an IT guy to come into the meeting so that they were able to connect to another video room elsewhere in the world. So you imagine how much inefficient it was at that time. So it's a reason why we decided to search for a great brand in order to solve that issue.
That's terrific. So you had a meeting tax, you had technicians, you had challenges, and so now that Zoom's being deployed across your organization, what's it like now in terms of the utilization? How are people using it? Meeting, mobile experience, desktop rooms, etc. So can you share that?
Yeah. So in fact, just to share you a KPI on video meeting rooms at that time. In fact, we were having something like 550 video meeting rooms, and they were used in average, if I remember well, 30 minutes per week per video rooms. So for sure they were used, I mean for video purpose, they were used for normal classic purpose. So then what we decided is to launch massively the Zoom solution, and then we migrated a significant part of those rooms into native Zoom, or I would say compatible Zoom rooms. And we reduced the number of rooms so that we can also improve the usage and improve the satisfaction. So today, the usage of the rooms is in average 80 minutes per day. 80 minutes per day, 80, while a year and a half ago it was, I said 30 minutes per week. So you see how the gap that is really impressive, and without taking into account the fact that we have rolled out the video, the video solution to all users on their laptop, on their smartphone, and today they are using it from any type of device and anywhere in the world.
Yeah, so one of the things that, I talk to a lot of enterprise clients, prospects, C-suite executives, and what I hear a lot from when I talk to these executives is, Harry, we are an audio culture. We are not a video culture. And so my response to that is, well, it's the notion of, well, would I rather meet in person with somebody? Yes, I'd rather be in a room, but that's not always possible. So the notion of sort of having a video call is so much more immersive because I can see you as well as hear you and get the body language. So can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, in fact, at that time, again, 18 months ago, the video was not really leveraged, but mostly because it was not stable, it was not easy to use. And in fact, people were not really perceiving the value of having a video call whether in an ad hoc meeting, whether in a meeting room to meeting room meeting. So, and then what is really interesting with the implementation of Zoom is that the adoption became viral as a virus. So, and I remember...
Not as a virus, I hope, not as a virus.
But I remember that, so we signed the contract with Zoom in July 2018. And in fact, it took more or less 3 months to do a beta launch with something around 10,000 users, and 8 months to do a global launch. And in fact, when we entered into the global launch, we started to be a bit worried because it was going too fast. So, and we were not sure to be able to anticipate the potential impact on our network. So, and it's where it's really interesting because in fact, you feel like you need to drive the adoption with a lot of change management, and I think we can come back on that. But in fact, you discovered that the adoption is going so fast just because the solution is super easy to use. It's a one-click experience, and in fact, you have to manage that speed. And typically, if I give you some other few KPIs that are interesting today, on a daily basis today, we have 58,000 people connected on Zoom on a daily basis.
58,000.
58,000 people connected on a daily basis. We have 11,000 meetings that are organized on a daily basis with Zoom in Sanofi. And we have, let's say, more or less 1,000 webinars grouping 60,000 people on a monthly basis. So it's really awesome. It's really impressive to see how much the adoption came and how much the satisfaction came up also.
Hey, one of the things that everybody's interested in is like, metrics, right? But metrics are, the metrics you shared are really cool and fascinating. What about the financial metrics? What's been the impact from a financial perspective? What's been the impact from, we heard Eric talking this morning about the carbon footprint, about the ability to connect with people locally, nationally, globally, without sort of that stress, without the getting on a plane. And also we got the stress factor that goes away. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So in fact, we communicated into the company through two, let's say, streams or two pillars in terms of overall efficiency or financial results. The first one is, for sure, as many of you, I assume if you are part of the IT organization, you are asked by your management to be even more efficient by delivering better services to your business, but also in a very efficient manner. So, what is interesting is that, as you saw with the few figures, is that we succeeded to drive up very significantly the usage, but at the same time, the total cost of ownership of the video has been divided by 7. By 7. So if you take all the costs of the legacy technology that I was having, that finally we did decommission, we did remove also all the maintenance that were related to it. We did remove also all the contracts that we had with various companies across the world in order to support the day-to-day, just because the solution was not user-friendly. So we removed those contracts because it was now, it's so much easy. You enter into a room, you click on the iPad and it works. So if you take all that cost and we compare it to how much the solution itself costs us today, we divided the cost per 7. So I should not tell it to Eric, but then I don't want to get a significant increase in the next discussion. But anyway, and the second point that is important, and you mentioned it, is the carbon footprint. There was also some pressure on the overall company to reduce the travel cost. And thanks to the launch of Zoom, more or less at the same time when we had that pressure, we succeeded to reduce very significantly the travel cost in the company. And definitely Zoom has been a tremendous help for that.
Yeah, and speaking personally, I think that, sort of the meeting tax and the meeting stress, it's like, it just changes the dynamics for a meeting, because, my experience going back to my days prior to Zoom, where, sort of waiting for the meeting to start, everybody's getting stressed, who's connected, where are they connected, how are they, it's like by the time the meeting gets started, you're already, sort of tense. Whereas now, it's 10 o'clock, hit the link, dial into the meeting, I'm connected, life is good. So that whole stress goes away.
And you're right. In fact, if we try to evaluate the cost for the company of that 15 minutes tax, it's probably huge. So now the only downside of that is that we need to be on time at the meeting.
You have no excuse, because you can join on your phone and then walk into the meeting room, or vice. There's no excuse for being late. So what are some of the successful, fun use cases, stories that you have? And I also understand that your CEO is like one of the biggest. We should call him a Zoomie, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. So we have a new CEO since September 1st, and he joined the company. And he had, I remember, he had a kind of local town hall in the headquarters in Paris. So it was probably 3 days after his arrival. And one of the words we heard during the first speech is that he was already a Zoom fan. Just after 3 days in the company, just experiencing. He was coming from Novartis. So just an advice for you. Apparently Novartis is not a Zoom client. So I think you should probably develop it pretty quickly, because there is an appetite. And so he was very quickly, he became very quickly a Zoom fan. So this is good, because it demonstrates also how much such simple solution can have direct impact on top executive, and this is key. So if I come back on some key use cases, for sure we leverage Zoom for internal collaboration from any device, and many people are using it from the smartphone or from the tablets. You need to know also that in Sanofi we have cells that are equipped only with iPad or tablets, I would say, and they are leveraging Zoom on the tablets in order to, they are, in fact, the cells are mobile all across the various countries, and in order to remain connected to their management or to their, let's say, a community, they leverage Zoom on a day-to-day. And what is interesting is that it works as well in US as in some countries where the connectivity sometimes is not always the best. You go to India, the connectivity is not great, or to some other countries, and in fact, you see how much Zoom is capable to adapt the bandwidth demand to that network bandwidth, and it's really interesting. So we are leveraging also for global product trainings, some key opinions leader events with some physicians or some specific business stakeholders. So, and progressively we try to see how much we can leverage Zoom into some, let's say, B2B or B2C solutions that we are leveraging. CRM could be one of them, but also we are thinking about other potential solutions. And just a small example that is interesting is that I've tested a few times Zoom in the French TGV, which is going at 300 kilometers per hour, and it works, which is amazing.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I did a panel conversation at 85 miles an hour on Interstate 80 in Pennsylvania a couple of weeks back, and with the virtual background up, it was very cool. Great. Yeah, one of the things that I also heard is that you won an innovation award. Actually, I want to go back on one other point. First of all, I wanted to congratulate you and the team, because so many technology organizations, and I can be accused of doing this too. It's like, we buy into the new technology, the new capability, we bring it in. People really underestimate the amount of effort it takes to carve out all of the things that it's replacing. It really does take it. So congratulations to you and the team for getting that done. So my understanding is that you also won an innovation award for the introduction of Zoom, and let's talk about that.
In fact, there is a Sanofi award process that we do organize on a yearly basis. And the objective is not so much to demonstrate the capacity of our people to innovate in specific technologies, but also in their capacity to find the right solution for the right requirement or for the right use case, and to be able to implement it with the right change management. And it's definitely what has been recognized with Zoom, because in fact, you did Zoom, we did not. But finally, what is really a key achievement in our case is that Zoom has been selected versus some other potential candidates at that time that were existing. And then the achievement of the team is to have selected the right solution, and then to have conducted all the implementation phase in a really successful manner, capable also to decommission, as you said, the legacy stuff in order to achieve the savings that we need to achieve, and then drive the adoption. So they won that team, and it was one of my team won that award. It was led by Mike. Mike is here in the first row, so congratulations to Mike as well. And I think it has been a really big recognition of the huge work delivered during the 18 months, and now it's so much a success that it's becoming obvious.
That's terrific, and I'm sure sort of when you watched the keynote this morning with Eric and Oded and the product management team, that what we're doing in the Zoom app marketplace and the integration with things like Salesforce and ServiceNow, that's just going to sort of make it much more of an immersive experience and accelerate everything that you're doing.
It's not a question, but anyway, I will answer to it. In fact, what is interesting is that the capacity of Zoom to be integrated into our overall ecosystem remains our key focus. And it's the reason why I was happy this morning to see some of the announcements. Typically, we are a Microsoft shop on the digital workplace. And it's interesting to see that even if we are a Microsoft shop, we decided to implement Zoom instead of implementing Skype for Business and Teams with the video that is integrated in Teams. But what we need is to have that strong integration with Microsoft, even if we select some of the features and we don't want to leverage the Microsoft one because we think that Zoom is capable to deliver it in a better manner. So, and then we'll have also some other challenges for that solution to be integrated in some other business solutions. So it remains for us a big focus and part of the discussion that we are having on a regular basis with the Zoom product team and the management. And another point also which is interesting to mention is that in the past, Sanofi was a pretty big telepresence shop as well, having various telepresence meeting rooms across the world. And when I presented Zoom to my executive management, it was, so we contracted in July, so I think I presented it probably in June. I told them, they were fan of telepresence, I told them the success factor of Zoom will be that you will ask me to decommission telepresence. And we are now decommissioning telepresence.
Excellent.
Thanks, Harry.
Excellent. Yeah, terrific. And so, final thoughts. So, what are some of the key lessons that you've learned, and what would your advice be to the audience? One of the things that I'd like to preempt is, you know, I think what we've heard is that at Sanofi, you're having excellent success.
Yeah.
What I also heard you say was that because we have an excellent product and an excellent service. But the fact is that when two organizations come together and partner, and that's how we think about our clients, is we think about our clients as partners, that's when it really works. And that's what this is. This is a complete partnership.
Definitely, because I did not mention it, but we relied on the very strong partnership with your teams in order to help us to design the various, let's say, the various Zoom room templates that we want to implement for huddle room, for middle size, for big size. And typically, we decided to implement it with Minimac in order to make sure that, let's say, we were not having, let's say, adding complexity in having some other type of technologies. So the first lessons learned, I think, is rely on Zoom in order to partner in the way we implement and we design the service according to our requirements and according to our specificities. And the level of, even if it was very early, the level of support that we got from the team in US and progressively from the team in France that has been set up, I think was great. Other lessons learned is about the network for sure. Monitor very carefully the network capacity and particularly the internet breakout consumption that you have across. And when you are architecturing your network for such a big company, you need to make sure that as you get difficulties in managing the demand, because as soon as everyone is connected, it's super complex. So in anticipation to that, we had a very clear dashboard in order to be able to monitor the various bandwidth consumption and the bandwidth usage, and being able to react fast and anticipate some bandwidth upgrade. Employee change management is key, but as I said, finally it became pretty easy. I should not tell that because we had a big part of the team working very hard on it, but keep that in mind in case there is a cultural change to address also in the company. And typically, one interesting comment is that we adopt at the very beginning that people will naturally activate the video because in the past the video was not working so well. So when you were having a meeting, a conference meeting with many people, you were looking at the name of the people but not looking at the video. And now, in fact, people are naturally activating the video by default, which means that even that cultural change that can be a challenge in some of the companies was not so much an issue for us. And then the last point, which is how fast you need to turn your meeting room to native Zoom room is also important because, as I said, we have 450 rooms that we progressively migrated from, it was Polycom and Tenberg, and we migrated to Zoom, native room. And in fact, the faster you can go, the better it is in order to avoid, let's say, too long time, a too long period with a hybrid environment.
That's great. That's great. So we'd love to open this up to the floor for questions. I'm sure that we got some questions out here. I think there's mics somewhere. I think there's a mic here in the middle.
Usually the first question is...
First question's coming. And the questions are all for Remi, by the way, please. No questions for me.
Okay, no windsurfing. Remi, a question about 11,000 meetings a day that you said are recorded. What happens after that? Are they recorded? Do you store them somewhere? Are they available to attendees later?
In fact, we do not record the meetings except the one for which we want to broadcast specifically those sessions. The reason why is because we are in a regulated market, and in fact, today we don't leverage that feature. But in fact, we are thinking about leveraging that feature for some for some specific use case, so that we can put it on the website, internal website, and then having people using it. What we do is that we want to leverage more and more some new features in order to to have some, which is partially what we have seen this morning, in order to enrich the collaboration through various features during the sessions. Typically, people are not so much leveraging today whiteboards, and we think it's something that we should develop. People are leveraging a lot webcast and webinar sessions, and we do a lot. Typically, I do one very regularly with my global team, and for that part, we record, and when we leverage that. We have implemented also what we call tech talks, which is comparable to TED Talks, as you can imagine, where in fact some people in my organization are coming during 20 minutes in order to share their knowledge about a technology, about a solution, and then they leverage also Zoom to do that. So progressively, we want to enrich the service offering around Zoom so that we can get even more experience and richer experience around it.
Thank you.
We have another question here. Yeah. The microphone's behind you.
I got here first. I wanted to ask, as you increased the amount of usage of your video rooms, was there any effect to the desktop user? I mean, a lot of people join conference rooms from their desktop. Was there any increase in desktop to desktop or remote participants joining? And then, as a last part to that, did you have to make any equipment provision for people at the desktop based off that increased video use?
I did not hear the end of the question, but...
Oh, the last part was, if you did see an increase in video usage from the desktop, was there anything that you had to provide to users that you hadn't up until that point? Because you said you'd had video capabilities, but they weren't used until you changed.
In fact, yes, you're right. People are leveraging Zoom wherever they are. So in fact, today we don't really make a difference between whether they are leveraging it from a laptop, whether a laptop desktop, whether they are leveraging it from a meeting room. So we do organize the meetings, and then people join from where they are. So it's where we have seen a very significant usage increase on the laptop. I'm not sure we measure it. I'm looking at Mike. We measure the overall usage by number of meetings and number of people connected. But the fact that they connect from the laptop or from the smartphone or from any meeting rooms, in fact, is not so much a concern on our side, because we know that today it's very seamless to use it on a desktop and on a laptop. So people are leveraging it on a regular basis. And then, did we have any challenge in rolling out the Zoom client on the laptop? And I'm looking at Mike, but yes, we had an interesting challenge, which is about the headsets. We had to educate people that if you are leveraging not only Zoom, because in fact I think it's the same issue with whatever other solution, you should not leverage the internal mic of the device itself when it is a laptop. And so we distributed to all the associates headsets or Jabra
Pucks.
yeah, the
pod.
pod,
Yeah.
the Jabra pod, so that we make sure that when people are attending to a session through their laptop, we are hearing them very well. And this part has been a small challenge in the adoption because at the very beginning they did not really perceive that, and the sound, the experience was not that great, but in fact it was mostly because they were not leveraging the headset or the pod.
Congratulations on the success you have. For global organizations to see such a kind of success, that kind of scale and the adoption going through the roof, if I may say. So what are the things you're thinking for the future? This morning we heard there's a lot of new features coming in with that artificial intelligence, machine learning. So what are the things you are looking at Zoom, and what are you asking for them in terms of what are the next level of issues they can help you solve?
So we would like to implement peer-to-peer capabilities fully integrated into Zoom because today, as the usage is growing significantly, typically in September we did a session with 22,000 people connected on a single meeting. It was a webinar for sure. It was not
22,000?
Sorry?
22,000?
22,000. So it was a webcast with our new CEO. And we'll get another one in December 16 or December 12. So, and definitely it's part of the challenge that we need is to develop it with peer-to-peer capabilities, because then when you have 20, 30, 40,000 people connected on the same session, you imagine the impact you can have on the network and your overall infrastructure. So peer-to-peer is one of the features that we want to deep dive. As I said also, we want more and more to elevate the usage to some, let's say, B2B and B2C use cases. And we are discussing with various tech players in order to help in integrating even better Zoom with some of the product that we are leveraging. I could name Viva, for example, but I could name some others. And then the rest is also to add to the ecosystem of the collaboration some features such as the one that we saw this morning through the app ecosystem that is being developed around Zoom. And last is the phone, the Zoom phone. Today we still have, let's say, a partial phone legacy and IP phone implemented in Zoom. So, but as we are a global company in 100 countries, in order to be able to implement Zoom phone pretty fast, we need to make sure that Zoom is open in terms of phone gateway in the various countries, but it's also what we would like to expand. So there are many other potentials around Zoom, and we are looking at it.
Bit of a loaded question, but what did you think about the voice translation?
I love it. I love it.
You love that?
I love it because even if we are a global company, let's say English is supposed to be the professional language, but there are various countries, typically in Asia or in Latin America, where, let's say, not 100% of our associates are speaking English. So then we need to be able to provide them such feature. So
yeah,
yes.
And again, that makes people happy.
Very
it
promising.
Increases productivity, takes stress out, because they don't have to they don't have to guess at what you said, they actually understand it. And I think your CEO addressing like the entire company, 22,000 people, that's 20%, 22% of your company is pretty good. But I hear from the C-suite all the time, more and more C-suite executives, they want to address their organization. They want to address them locally, nationally, and globally. And the principal reason is not about the CEO, but the C-suite wants to make sure the message is being heard consistently across the entire organization. And the entire organization wants to hear from the executive. They want to hear from the C-suite directly. So I think that how you're leveraging it and continuing to leverage the platform is very cool. Great. I think we have another question coming up. Yep.
First of all, as a board member of TED, I want to thank you. My question is, and Harry did not ask me to say this at all, but I'm wondering this. I had a great dinner with him anyway. That how has Zoom changed your company, your culture, and how you work? Because the biggest thing is when you start implementing this, you're seeing all this change. My question is really, how has Zoom changed your company and how it works?
See me later, I'll give you the $20, okay?
I just wanted the Zoom button on my coat.
We can talk about that one too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's an interesting question because the question could be, is Zoom changing the culture, or is Zoom a lever for us to be able to adapt the culture of the company to where we want to be and where we want to go? I think that, and in fact, given the fact that we have a new CEO that joined the company only a month ago or 2 months ago, I think I should probably ask the question to him. I think what Zoom has changed is the fact that now you can super easily collaborate and exchange with many people on a very ad hoc manner or in an organized manner. So you do not have any break in organizing meetings. You do not have to think about the logistic. You just book a meeting with resources and a Zoom a Zoom meeting ID. That's all. It's automatic. There is a plugin in our Outlook, so it's super seamless. So then, is it changing the culture and the mindset? We could say yes, because now there is a natural capacity to collaborate in a very easy manner, and probably that we are breaking a bit some frontier between some teams or between some countries in helping in collaborating better on a day-to-day. But I would say that I'm not sure it's enough. I think this is a prerequisite, and it's pretty complex to get that prerequisite delivered with that quality. But then the real cultural or mindset change will come from the desire of the management to, in addition to that lever, let's say, manage the change within the company in order to bring some of the values that we want to develop in the company. So I would say it's probably a 50-50 between what Zoom can, how Zoom can drive the change, and then how the management can leverage it to drive to even a higher ambition.
I think we have time for like one more question, and is there 2 more questions or just one more?
There's 1 more person.
1 more.
Yes. So I'm actually on a team that's going to be doing a global rollout of Zoom very soon. And we're kind of taking a look and seeing where we might see our biggest hurdles. Can you tell me, like, you know, when it comes to like just letting them know what Zoom is, getting them excited about it, using it, getting proficiency into it, and then just completely like not even thinking that anything else other than Zoom exists. Where were your biggest hurdles, and where were your like, where did you think you were going to have some issues but didn't?
I'm not sure to get the question. I do not listen here very well. So
what's that?
Can you repeat the question, because I hear.
So, I think
it was a long one. I'm sorry. What I'm asking is, when you were thinking of adoption, like from telling people what Zoom was to all the way to just making them love it and they're experts at it, where was the biggest hurdle getting them over in that journey? And where did you think there was going to be a hurdle and there was not?
Alors, it's interesting because I did the same project with another solution 5 years ago. And I remember that we did prepare very carefully the change management. We did, at that time, so it was in another company, have specific websites in which you can find all the learning experience,
FAQs.
FAQs, but even more than FAQs, we were having some triptych distributing to the people, some tips that were sent regularly. And in fact, we have seen, so we did the same for the implementation, the rollout of Zoom in Sanofi. And for sure, we had a lot of visits on that site, internal site, for the people to be able to learn. But finally, I think it was at the very beginning, people probably were curious about how to start to launch a meeting, how to use Zoom. So they visited that site, but very quickly they learned by the experience of others. And I think it's probably one of the key lessons learned as well. In addition to the fact that when they were attending to some of the meetings also, in fact, Zoom was becoming a point of discussion probably at the canteen or at the coffee machine. And it's probably an area that we did not evaluate at all as being one of the learning experience for Zoom. So it's interesting. Finally, at the end, I should look at the overall usage of the website. I'm looking at Mike also, where we really have the level of the volume of visits that we're supposed to have. I'm not sure, but I think even Mike doesn't know. But so I think that finally it's a virus model that is providing such experience.
Yeah, I think, just to answer the question from my background and experience of rolling out to large groups globally, you got to communicate. You got to find different channels of communication, not one size fits all, so to speak. I think getting leadership engaged right from the get-go has always been a success factor in my background, because then everybody else sort of follows the leader, so to speak. And the third is, we need all the administrative support, the execs really engaged in terms of how to set up meetings and things like that, because they have a lot of, influence on platforms of this nature. So those were my thoughts. So Remi, thank you again for making the long trip from Paris to be with us today in San Jose. Thank you all for joining us at Zoomtopia, being part of this fireside chat. Enjoy the rest of today, this evening, tomorrow, and can have a lot of fun tomorrow evening at the concert. So great, thank you all.
Thanks.